That night in Las Vegas, Elvis noticed something in the middle of his concert and suddenly stopped singing. The 8-year-old girl crying in the front row had captured his complete attention. When Elvis called her to the stage and said, "Come here, daughter," the venue of 3,000 people suddenly held their breath because that little girl's story was breaking Elvis's heart. And that night, everyone would witness the love of a true father. The International Hotel in Las Vegas buzzed with electric anticipation on that warm September evening in 1973. Outside, the iconic neon lights of the Strip painted the desert sky in brilliant colors, while inside, 3,000 eager fans filled every seat of the grand showroom. The air was thick with excitement and the sweet scent of anticipation that only comes before witnessing a legend perform. Among the crowd sat 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez, her small hands clutching a handmade sign that read, "I love you, Elvis," in bright red crayon. Her foster mother, Mrs. Henderson, had saved for months to afford these front row seats, knowing how much this moment meant to the little girl who had endured more heartbreak than any child should face. Emma's dark eyes sparkled with wonder as she took in the grandeur of the venue, the crystal chandeliers casting dancing shadows across the burgundy velvet seats. The orchestra began their opening notes, and the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, but Emma remained still, her heart racing with nervous excitement. She had listened to Elvis's records countless times in her small bedroom at the foster home, imagining what it would be like to see him in person. Tonight, her dream was finally coming true, though she had no idea that this evening would change both their lives forever. When Elvis Presley stepped into the spotlight, the entire venue transformed. Dressed in his iconic white jumpsuit adorned with golden eagles, he commanded the stage with a presence that was both magnetic and humble. His voice filled every corner of the massive room as he launched into "Love Me Tender," his signature warmth radiating through each note. Emma watched in absolute awe, her small body swaying gently to the rhythm. She had never seen anything so magnificent. The way Elvis moved, the way he connected with each person in the audience, made her feel as though he was singing directly to her. Tears of joy began to form in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of the moment. As Elvis continued his performance, moving through hits like Hound Dog and Can't Help Falling in Love, he began to notice the small figure in the front row. There was something about her stillness amidst the energetic crowd that caught his attention. While everyone around her cheered and danced, Emma sat transfixed, tears now streaming down her cheeks as she absorbed every moment of magic unfolding before her. The seasoned performer had seen thousands of emotional fans throughout his career, but something about this little girl's reaction touched him deeply. Between songs, he found his gaze returning to her, wondering about the story behind those tears and the handmade sign she held so carefully. Midway through his performance of It's Now or Never, Elvis suddenly stopped singing. The band continued for a few measures before gradually trailing off, confused by their leader's unexpected pause. The massive crowd fell silent, 3,000 people wondering what had captured the king's attention so completely. Elvis stepped closer to the edge of the stage, his eyes fixed on Emma. He could see now that she wasn't just emotional from the music. There was something deeper in her expression, a longing that spoke to his heart. Having grown up poor in Tupelo and understanding the pain of feeling different or left out, Elvis recognized something familiar in the little girl's eyes. "Hold on just a minute, folks." Elvis spoke into his microphone, his voice gentle but carrying clearly through the silent venue. "I see someone down here who looks like she needs a special moment." The crowd murmured softly, many standing on their toes to see what had caught their idol's attention. Emma looked around nervously, unsure if he was talking about her. Mrs. Henderson placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, equally surprised by this unexpected turn of events. The spotlight operator, following Elvis's gaze, gradually illuminated the front row where Emma sat, her tear-stained cheeks now visible to the entire audience. "You with the beautiful sign," Elvis continued, pointing gently toward Emma. "What's your name, sweetheart?" His voice carried all the warmth and tenderness that had made him beloved by millions, but in this moment it was focused entirely on one small girl who needed to feel special. Emma's voice was barely a whisper as she managed to say Emma into the sudden quiet of the vast room. Elvis knelt at the edge of the stage, bringing himself closer to her level, his famous smile encouraging her to speak louder. "Emma," he repeated warmly. "That's a beautiful name for a beautiful little girl. How old are you, Emma?" "8," she replied, her voice growing slightly stronger as she realized that Elvis Presley himself was actually talking to her. The crowd remained remarkably quiet, sensing they were witnessing something special and not wanting to interrupt this magical interaction. Mrs. Henderson, seeing an opportunity to share Emma's story, leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Presley," she called out respectfully, "this little angel has been through more than most children her age. She's been waiting for this night for months, saving every penny from her chores to help pay for these tickets." Elvis's expression softened even further as he listened. Throughout his career, he had always been drawn to stories of struggle and perseverance, perhaps because of his own difficult childhood. "Is that right, Emma? You saved up for these tickets yourself?" When Emma nodded shyly, Elvis felt his heart swell with admiration for this determined little girl. "Well, Emma," Elvis said, his voice carrying across the silent venue, "I think someone as special as you deserves a better view of the show. What do you say we get you up here with me?" The crowd began to murmur with excitement, realizing they were about to witness something truly extraordinary. As security personnel quickly appeared to escort Emma safely to the stage, Elvis stood and adjusted his microphone. The 8-year-old girl, still clutching her homemade sign, walked carefully up the steps with wide eyes, unable to believe what was happening to her. When she reached the top, Elvis extended his hand to her with the gentleness of a father helping his own daughter. "Come here, sweetheart," Elvis said softly. And then, in a moment that would echo through the venue and through time, he added words that made the entire audience gasp. "Come here, daughter." The word hung in the air like a blessing, and many in the crowd felt tears spring to their eyes at the tenderness in his voice. Emma looked up at Elvis with wonder, and for a moment she felt what it might be like to have a father who cherished her. Elvis knelt down beside her, his voice low enough that only she could hear his next words, but his actions spoke volumes to everyone watching. He was treating this foster child with the same love and care he would show his own daughter, Lisa Marie. The bond that formed in that instant was palpable. Elvis had always been known for his connection with fans, but this was different. This was a moment of pure, paternal love being offered to a child who had never experienced it. The audience watched in reverent silence as Elvis gently wiped away Emma's tears and positioned her beside him center stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elvis announced to the crowd, his arm protectively around Emma's shoulders, "I'd like you to meet my friend Emma. She's going to help me with the next song." The thunderous applause that followed was filled not just with excitement, but with genuine emotion as 3,000 people witnessed an act of pure kindness. What happened next would become the stuff of legend. Elvis began to sing "Love Me Tender," but this time it was different. His voice carried an extra layer of emotion, as if he was singing to his own child. Emma stood beside him, no longer crying, but glowing with a happiness that radiated throughout the entire venue. As Elvis sang, he would occasionally lean down to Emma, encouraging her to sing along. Her small voice, though barely audible above the music, blended beautifully with his famous baritone. The sight of the king of rock and roll sharing his stage with a foster child, treating her with such genuine love and respect, moved many in the audience to tears. During the instrumental bridge, Elvis spoke to the crowd while keeping Emma close. "You know, folks, sometimes we meet people who remind us what's really important in life. This little lady here has shown me more courage tonight than I've seen in a long time. She saved her own money to be here, and she's got a heart bigger than this whole state of Nevada." The band, understanding the significance of the moment, played with extra tenderness. Even the seasoned musicians who had performed with Elvis countless times seemed moved by what they were witnessing. This wasn't just a performance anymore. It was a moment of healing, of connection, of a man with the heart of a father reaching out to a child who needed exactly that kind of love. As the song concluded, Elvis didn't immediately send Emma back to her seat. Instead, he kept her with him, his hand gently resting on her shoulder as he addressed the audience about the importance of caring for children, of making sure every child knows they are loved and valued. For the next 30 minutes, Emma remained on stage with Elvis, becoming an integral part of the show. When he performed "Can't Help Falling in Love," he dedicated it to all the children who need to know they're loved. When he sang "It's Now or Never," he encouraged Emma to clap along, her infectious joy spreading throughout the audience. The crowd had never experienced anything quite like this. They had come to see a concert, but instead they were witnessing something far more profound, a demonstration of unconditional love and acceptance. Many parents in the audience found themselves thinking about their own children, vowing to hug them a little tighter when they they got home. Elvis's band adapted seamlessly to the new dynamic, extending songs to allow for more interaction between Elvis and Emma. The girl's confidence grew with each passing moment, and by the time Elvis began "Are You Lonesome Tonight?", she was swaying naturally to the music, completely at ease in front of 3,000 strangers. During one particularly tender moment, Elvis knelt down to Emma's level and asked her what her favorite song was. When she whispered "Love Me Tender," he smiled that famous smile and said, "Well then, Emma, let's sing it together one more time just for you." What followed was perhaps the most beautiful duet ever performed on that stage. A superstar and a foster child, their voices united in a song about love and tenderness. The audience was completely captivated. People who had been standing sat down, not wanting to miss a single moment. Cameras flashed continuously as fans tried to capture this once-in-a-lifetime moment, though no photograph could truly capture the emotion that filled the room. As the concert neared its end, Elvis made an announcement that surprised everyone, including his own management team who were watching from the wings with tears in their eyes. "Emma," he said, speaking into the microphone so everyone could hear, his voice carrying the weight of a solemn vow, "I want you to know that you will always have a place in my family, always. No matter what happens, no matter where life takes you, you remember that you have someone who loves you and believes in you. And anytime you need anything, you call Uncle Elvis, okay?" The crowd erupted in applause, but Elvis wasn't finished. He turned toward the audience, scanning the front rows until he found Mrs. Henderson. "Mrs. Henderson," he called out, his voice carrying clearly through the venue, "I want to make sure Emma has everything she needs for school this year and beyond. My people will be in touch with you tomorrow to arrange everything." The generosity was typical Elvis, but the public nature of the promise made it even more meaningful, ensuring that the commitment would be honored. Emma looked up at Elvis with eyes full of wonder and gratitude, her small face glowing with a happiness that seemed to light up the entire stage. For the first time in her young life, she felt truly seen and valued by someone who mattered. This wasn't just charity or a momentary gesture of kindness. This was love being offered freely and without condition, the kind of love that changes a person's entire understanding of their worth. "You remember this night, Emma," Elvis whispered to her as the final song approached, kneeling down so that they were eye to eye. "You remember that you are special, that you are loved, and that you deserve all the good things in life. Don't you ever let anyone tell you different. You are somebody's daughter tonight, and you always will be." His words, spoken with the authority of experience and the tenderness of a father, would stay with Emma for the rest of her life. The bond between them was now visible to everyone in the venue, a connection that transcended the usual relationship between performer and audience member. This wasn't a publicity stunt or a planned moment designed for media attention. This was genuine human connection at its most beautiful and pure. Elvis had seen a child in need and responded with his whole heart, and in doing so he had reminded everyone present of the transformative power of love and kindness. Mrs. Henderson, watching from her seat with tears streaming down her face, knew she was witnessing something that would change Emma's life forever. In all her years of caring for foster children, she had never seen anything quite like this. She understood that Emma would carry this moment with her always, a touchstone of love and acceptance that would sustain her through whatever challenges lay ahead. The audience, too, understood they were witnessing something extraordinary. Many had pulled out handkerchiefs and tissues, openly weeping at the beauty of what they were seeing. Hardened security guards stood with misty eyes, and even the venue staff had gathered at the edges of the room to watch this unprecedented display of compassion. As Elvis prepared for his closing number, "Can't Help Falling in Love," he made one final gesture that would cement this night in the hearts of everyone present for the rest of their lives. He reached up and slowly removed his iconic golden scarf, the same one he had worn for countless performances, the one that had become as much a part of his image as his voice itself, and gently placed it around Emma's small shoulders. The scarf, still warm from his body and carrying the faint scent of his cologne, settled around her like a royal mantle. The golden fabric caught the stage lights and seemed to glow, transforming Emma from a foster child into someone precious and chosen. The symbolism was not lost on anyone present. Elvis was literally wrapping her in a piece of himself, marking her as his own. "This is for you, daughter," he said simply, and the word daughter rang through the venue with the same power as his most famous songs. The way he said it, with such conviction, such tenderness, such finality, made it clear that this was not just a momentary kindness, but a permanent acclaim. Emma touched the scarf with reverent fingers, understanding somehow that she was receiving more than just a piece of fabric. She was receiving a symbol of belonging, of being chosen, of being unconditionally loved. The final song began, but this time it was different from any performance Elvis had ever given. With Emma standing beside him, wearing his scarf and beaming with joy, he sang with a depth of emotion that moved even his most seasoned band members to tears. Every word of "Can't Help Falling in Love" seemed to be directed not just to the audience, but to this little girl who had captured his heart so completely. As he sang about wise men who say only fools rush in, Elvis looked down at Emma and smiled, as if to say that sometimes the wisest thing you can do is follow your heart, even if it means stopping a concert to embrace a child who needs love. The lyrics took on new meaning as he sang them to someone who had just learned what it felt like to be truly loved. The audience swayed gently to the music, many holding hands with strangers, united in the beauty of what they were witnessing. Parents held their children closer, couples embraced, and even those who had come alone felt connected to something larger than themselves. The song became a celebration not just of romantic love, but of the love that exists between all human beings when barriers are broken down. As the last notes faded, and the audience gave a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever, Elvis knelt down one more time to hug Emma. The embrace lasted several long moments, and in that time, everyone in the venue understood that they had witnessed something truly magical, not just a concert, but a moment of pure love and human connection that would live in their memories forever. When they finally separated, Emma looked up at Elvis with tears of joy streaming down her face. "Thank you, Daddy," she whispered, the word coming naturally from her heart. Elvis's eyes filled with tears as he realized the profound impact this night had had on both of them. In calling him Daddy, Emma had given him a gift as precious as any he had given her, the chance to be a father to someone who desperately needed one. The standing ovation continued for nearly 10 minutes, with people cheering not just for the music, but for the display of human kindness they had witnessed. As Elvis helped Emma down from the stage and back to her seat, the entire front section of the audience stood to applaud her as well, recognizing her role in creating this unforgettable moment. She had become more than just a spectator, she had become an inspiration. Mrs. Henderson embraced Emma tightly when she returned, both of them overwhelmed by what had just transpired. The golden scarf remained around Emma's shoulders, a tangible reminder that this incredible night had actually happened. Around them, other audience members reached out to touch Emma's hand, or offer words of encouragement, as if some of Elvis's magic had transferred to her, and they wanted to be part of it. "You're going to remember this forever, aren't you, sweetheart?" Mrs. Henderson whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Emma nodded, unable to speak through her tears of joy. She clutched the scarf tighter, breathing in the faint scent of Elvis's cologne that still lingered in the fabric, proof that this wasn't just a beautiful dream. In the days that followed, the story of Elvis and Emma spread far beyond the walls of the International Hotel. Newspapers picked up the story, radio DJs talked about it on their shows, and fans who had been there that night called friends and family to share what they had witnessed. But for those who were present, no retelling could capture the full emotional impact of seeing the king of rock and roll become a father figure to a child who needed it most. The local Las Vegas newspaper ran the story on their front page with the headline, "The King's Greatest Performance Wasn't a Song." The article included several photos from that night, including one that would become iconic, Elvis kneeling beside Emma on stage, the golden scarf around her shoulders, both of them glowing with happiness. True to his word, Elvis's management contacted Mrs. Henderson the very next day. Colonel Parker himself called to arrange the details, though he admitted to being moved to tears when he heard the full story. Not only did they arrange for Emma's school expenses to be covered, but they also set up a trust fund to ensure her future education. Additionally, Elvis arranged for Emma and Mrs. Henderson to have permanent seats at any of his Las Vegas shows, treating them truly like family. The impact on Emma was immediate and profound. The shy, often sad little girl was transformed overnight. She walked taller, smiled more frequently, and for the first time in her life she felt truly valued. The other children at the foster home looked at her with new respect and curiosity, wanting to hear the story over and over again. Mrs. Henderson noticed a confidence in Emma that hadn't been there before, a sense of self-worth that no amount of therapy or counseling had been able to instill. But Emma wasn't the only life changed that night. Many audience members left the venue feeling fundamentally different about their own relationships and responsibilities. The concert had shown them them something they had never considered before: the power of noticing someone who feels invisible and choosing to make them feel seen. Dr. Patricia Williams, a child psychologist who had been in the audience that night, was so moved by what she witnessed that she decided to specialize in working with foster children. Years later, she would credit that evening with Elvis and Emma as the moment she realized her true calling. "I watched a superstar see a child's pain and respond with immediate, unconditional love," she later wrote in her memoir. "It showed me what healing really looks like." The Hendersons, a wealthy couple who had been sitting in the second row, were inspired to open their home to foster children. They had been struggling with infertility for years, but seeing Elvis embrace Emma made them realize there were children who needed homes right now. Within 6 months, they had welcomed their first foster child, and over the years they helped dozens of children find permanent, loving families. Even the venue staff were affected. Sarah Martinez, who had been working as an usher that night, later became a social worker. "I saw what one moment of kindness could do," she explained. "If Elvis could stop his entire show for one child, then surely I could dedicate my career to helping children like Emma." The story reached beyond Las Vegas, inspiring people across the country to look for ways to help children in need. Foster care organizations reported a significant increase in inquiries from people wanting to help, all citing Emma's story as their inspiration. The Emma effect, as some social workers began calling it, led to hundreds of children finding new homes and support systems. Elvis himself was deeply affected by the experience. In interviews following that night, he often spoke about Emma with visible emotion, always referring to her as "my daughter Emma." He began incorporating more charitable work into his schedule, particularly focusing on children's causes. He established the Golden Scarf Foundation in partnership with Emma, dedicated to supporting foster children and ensuring they had access to education and opportunities. The bond between Elvis and Emma continued to grow stronger in the months and years that followed that magical night. True to his promise, Elvis would call Emma on her birthday each year, and their conversations would last for hours. He would ask about school, her friends, her dreams, and always reminded her that she was loved and had someone who believed in her. When Emma started middle school, Elvis surprised her by showing up at her school's career day. The entire school was buzzing with excitement, but Elvis made it clear he was there for one person: his daughter Emma. He spoke to her class about following dreams and never giving up, but his eyes stayed on Emma throughout his talk, making sure she understood that every word was meant for her. Christmas became a special time for their relationship. Elvis would send elaborate gifts, but more importantly, he would include handwritten letters telling Emma how proud he was of her progress and encouraging her to continue being the brave, kind person he had met that night in Las Vegas. Emma treasured these letters even more than the gifts, keeping them in a special box along with the golden scarf. During his Las Vegas residencies, Emma and Mrs. Henderson would attend shows regularly, always sitting in their special reserved seats. Each time, Elvis would acknowledge Emma from the stage, sometimes calling her up to sing a song with him. The audiences came to love these moments, and many regular attendees would specifically come to shows hoping to witness another magical moment between Elvis and his adopted daughter. The relationship wasn't just one-sided. Emma brought joy and purpose to Elvis's life in a way that nothing else had. During a particularly difficult period when he was struggling with his health and personal issues, it was a phone call from Emma that helped pull him through. "Daddy Elvis," she had said during one of their conversations, "you taught me that I'm special and loved. Don't you forget that you're special and loved too." Her innocent wisdom often provided Elvis with perspective during challenging times. When critics would attack his music or his personal life, he would remember Emma's unconditional love and find the strength to continue. She became his anchor, reminding him of what truly mattered in life. As Emma grew older, she began to understand more fully the impact that night had had, not just on her life but on countless others. She started receiving letters from other foster children who had heard her story and found hope in it. Parents wrote to tell her how her story had inspired them to adopt or become foster parents. Social workers shared how they used her story to encourage children who had given up hope. Emma took these responsibilities seriously. With Elvis's encouragement, she began speaking at foster care events, sharing her story, and encouraging other children to never give up on their dreams. Her natural charisma and genuine warmth made her an effective advocate, and she discovered she had inherited some of Elvis's ability to connect with audiences. "I learned from the best," she would often say, referring to Elvis's gift for making every person person feel special and seen. He showed me that love isn't about being related by blood. Love is about choosing to see someone's worth and helping them see it too. As she entered high school, Emma excelled academically and socially. She was elected student body president, starred in the school musical, and maintained a 4.0 GPA. More importantly, she became known as someone who looked out for other students who felt left out or different. She started a peer mentoring program specifically for foster children in her school district. Elvis attended her high school graduation, sitting proudly in the audience as Emma delivered the valedictorian speech. Her topic was the power of one moment to change everything, and she spoke movingly about how a single act of kindness had transformed not just her life, but the lives of countless others. There wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium as she concluded by saying, "My father taught me that we all have the power to be someone's hero. We just have to be brave enough to care." This beautiful relationship continued until Elvis's death in 1970. Emma, now 16, was devastated by the loss of the man she had come to think of as her true father. At his funeral, she wore the golden scarf he had given her that night in Las Vegas, and those who knew their story understood the significance of that gesture. She was given a special place in the family section, acknowledged as one of Elvis's beloved children. The story of Elvis and Emma continues to inspire people decades later because it represents the very best of human nature, the willingness to see beyond ourselves and reach out to those who need love and support. In a world that can often seem cold and disconnected, their story reminds us that simple acts of kindness can have profound and lasting impact that ripples through generations. Emma grew up to become a social worker, dedicating her life to helping other children in foster care. She established the Golden Scarf Foundation in Elvis's memory, providing resources and support to foster children across the country. Her mission statement, inspired by Elvis's words to her that night, reads, "Every child deserves to know they are special, they are loved, and they deserve all the good things in life." The foundation has helped thousands of children over the years, providing scholarships, mentoring programs, and emergency assistance to families in crisis. Emma often tells people that every child they help is Elvis's legacy continuing, his love multiplying and spreading to touch more lives than he could have ever imagined. The International Hotel, now known as the Westgate Las Vegas Resort, has a small plaque near the showroom commemorating that special night. It reads, "In this room on September 15, 1973, Elvis Presley reminded us all that love has no boundaries, and that sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest changes." Visitors often stop to read the plaque and ask about the story behind it, ensuring that the message continues to spread. For those who were lucky enough to be in that audience, the memory of Elvis calling Emma daughter and treating her with such genuine love remains one of their most treasured experiences. Many have said that it was the moment they truly understood why Elvis was called the King, not just because of his musical talent, but because of the size of his heart and his willingness to use his platform to lift others up. The story serves as a reminder that fame and success are meaningless unless they are used to help others. Elvis Presley, in that moment with Emma, showed the world what true greatness looks like. Not the applause of thousands, but the smile of one child who finally felt loved and valued for exactly who she was. Years later, Emma would often speak about that night and how it changed her life. She kept Elvis's scarf in a place of honor in her room, and whenever she faced difficulties or felt alone, she would touch it and remember his words, "You are special, you are loved, and you deserve all the good things in life." The story became part of Elvis's legend, but more importantly, it became an inspiration to countless others. Fans who heard about that night were motivated to reach out to children in their own communities, to look for ways to make a difference in young lives. Foster care organizations reported an increase in inquiries from people wanting to help, all citing Emma's story as their inspiration. For Elvis himself, that night represented everything he valued most about his fame and success, the ability to touch lives and make a real difference. He often spoke about Emma in interviews, always with visible emotion, and he never missed an opportunity to encourage others to look out for children who needed extra love and support. The bond between Elvis and Emma continued long after that magical night. He would call her on her birthday each year, send Christmas presents, and whenever he was in Las Vegas, she and Mrs. Henderson would attend his shows. Each time he would acknowledge her from the stage, calling her his little daughter, and the audience would erupt in knowing applause. This beautiful relationship relationship continued until Elvis's death in 1977. Emma, now 16, was devastated by the loss of the man she had come to think of as her true father. At his funeral, she wore the golden scarf he had given her, and those who knew their story understood the significance of that gesture. The story of Elvis and Emma continues to inspire people decades later because it represents the very best of human nature, the willingness to see beyond ourselves and reach out to those who need love and support. In a world that can often seem cold and disconnected, their story reminds us that simple acts of kindness can have profound and lasting impact. Emma grew up to become a social worker, dedicating her life to helping other children in foster care. She established the Golden Scarf Foundation in Elvis's memory, providing resources and support to foster children across the country. Her mission statement, inspired by Elvis's words to her that night, reads, "Every child deserves to know they are special, they are loved, and they deserve all the good things in life." The International Hotel, now known as the Westgate Las Vegas Resort, has a small plaque near the showroom commemorating that special night. It reads, "In this room on September 15, 1973, Elvis Presley reminded us all that love has no boundaries and that sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest changes." For those who were lucky enough to be in that audience, the memory of Elvis calling Emma daughter and treating her with such genuine love remains one of their most treasured experiences. Many have said that it was the moment they truly understood why Elvis was called the king, not just because of his musical talent, but because of the size of his heart. The story serves as a reminder that fame and success are meaningless unless they are used to lift others up. Elvis Presley, in that moment with Emma, showed the world what true greatness looks like, not the applause of thousands, but the smile of one child who finally felt loved. That night in Las Vegas, 3,000 people came to see a concert, but they witnessed something far more precious. They saw love in action. They saw a man at the height of his fame take time to care for one small girl who needed to feel special. They saw the transformative power of kindness and the lasting impact of treating someone with dignity and love. Emma's story reminds us that we all have the power to be someone's Elvis, to be the person who sees a child in need and reaches out with love and support. We may not have a stage or a golden scarf to give, but we all have the ability to make someone feel valued and loved. The magic of that night wasn't in the music, though it was beautiful. It wasn't in the famous performer, though he was legendary. The magic was in the connection between two human beings, one who had everything the world could offer and one who had very little, and how love bridged that gap to create something truly beautiful. Years have passed since that extraordinary evening, but the story of Elvis and Emma continues to touch hearts and inspire acts of kindness around the world. It reminds us that the most powerful force on earth isn't fame or fortune, it's love, freely given and joyfully received. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, we get to witness that love in action, and it changes not just the lives of those directly involved, but everyone who is privileged to see it happen. In the end, that's what made Elvis truly the king. Not his voice, not his fame, but his heart. And on that magical night in Las Vegas, his heart found its perfect match in a little girl who just needed someone to call her daughter.